Tonight, the provincial auditor is criticizing the government's handling of social housing in Regina. A promise kept as the province removes the carbon tax off home heating in the new year. A revamped design shrinks Saskatoon's new central library to stay on budget.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Tuesday, December 3rd, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thank you for watching. Saskatchewan's auditor has tabled her second volume of audits in 2024. As Alexander Kwan reports, one of them examined the state of social housing in Regina.
I think this is indicative of they need to do more in Regina.
The provincial auditor is sharply criticizing how Saskatchewan handles provincially owned social housing units in Regina. Tara Clement tabled Volume 2 of her report for this year on Tuesday. In it, she took the Saskatchewan Housing Corporation to task. Her audit found that over the past few years, Regina has not only had the most vacant units, but also the highest vacancy rate in corporation-owned units across the province.
It's good to see that the vacancy rate in Regina is trending down. So that does mean that they are undertaking some initiatives, and I think they're trying to figure out some alternatives to fill those vacant social housing units, but they definitely probably need to do more faster.
Part of the problem, as of May, 500 of the approximately 3,000 units in Regina owned by SHC were vacant. Most of those empty units needed repairs, and the entire portfolio is classified as poor quality. This while more than 400 households were on the waiting list to obtain housing in the city, meaning the province is paying money for units to sit empty.
The government is paying $1.2 million to have nobody in those units overall. So should you, again, spend money to get them repaired so that ultimately people can be living in these units?
The official opposition says the government needs to do more and do it now.
One of the things we need to do, I think, is just to get those Sask housing units open, get them renovated if they need renovations, and then have a better strategy to track that.
Minister of Social Services Terry Jensen was not made available to answer questions about the auditor's report. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
The provincial government is following through on a promise to keep the federal carbon tax off of home heating through next year. It introduced a bill in the House today to extend the removal of the carbon tax on home heating. The amended act repeals a sunset clause, which would see the initial policy end later this month. Earlier this year, the provincial government exempted the carbon tax on home heating. That bill was supported by the opposition. Saskatchewan's Information and Privacy Commissioner says more than 7,000 people had their medical and personal information stolen by hackers earlier this year. The breach affected the records of patients that had been stored electronically through 4 Innomar clinics throughout the province. It did not affect the Innomar pharmacy, however. The Privacy Commissioner found the company took reasonable steps to contain the breach, but he also recommended that it provide credit monitoring services to anyone who was affected for a minimum of 10 years. The company has offered 2 years of monitoring. A Melfort doctor had his medical license suspended for 4 months after he admitted he physically assaulted children in separate incidents and self-prescribed medication. Helena Mahalik has more.
A doctor in central Saskatchewan has had his medical license suspended for 4 months after admitting to 4 charges of unprofessional and unbecoming conduct. Dr. Robert Stephan works at Family Physicians Group in Melfort. He admitted to striking a 9-year-old child in the face in 2019 for not listening to directions. He also admitted to spanking an 8-year-old last year. In that case, the child's mother was in the room. It apparently happened after the child refused to cooperate and began pulling on a piece of medical equipment. The doctor pulled the child off the bed, spanked him, then forcibly placed him in a chair. Both incidents happened when the kids were at Stephan's office for appointments. For the last year, the College of Physicians and Surgeons said Stephan agreed to not treat any patients under 16 without supervision. The doctor also admitted to having self-prescribed medication, which he lied about in his response to the college. Stephan's license was suspended Monday, just days after a pair of penalty hearings. His license will be suspended for 4 months, and Stephan is required to pay $8,000 to cover the investigation costs. He is also required to complete an ethics and anger management course. The college says if he complies with these orders, he will be back to practicing medicine by the end of March. Helena Mahalik, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Saskatoon's second overnight warming location is officially open and a week ahead of schedule. The warming center at St. Mary's on Avenue O South opened up Monday night. It's being run by the Salvation Army and will be open from 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. every day of the week. The location is in addition to the Saskatoon Indian and Métis Friendship Center. St. Mary's will be a safe space for men only. The Friendship Center will take care of women.
Looking at the trends, the amount of homeless, the increase in the numbers throughout the year, we had thought right from the end of last winter that we probably need 2 locations. That wasn't possible last year because we didn't know until winter came that the numbers were just going to continue to increase the way they did. So capacity was a big issue. Also, we had some feedback from community groups and from some individual women in community that they were uncomfortable staying in a place that was co-ed. And so it's removed some of the barriers for some people who may not have stayed if it was all together.
Late last month, Saskatoon City Council approved $200,000 to support the Winter Navigation and Warming Center's capital project. It's a $1.2 million fund, with the rest of it coming from different levels of government, community organizations, and private donations. There are also 6 daytime warm-up centers and 2 evening ones in Saskatoon, in addition to these overnight spaces. The Saskatoon Public Library has a new CEO. Carol Shepstone has been in the job for about a month, but the new role comes at a busy time for the library. The SPO has been saving for its new central library project since 2009. So Shepstone says it was critical to keep the new downtown library on budget. That meant a few design changes in exchange.
We did compress the project a little bit. We shrunk the overall size of the project, removing some administrative or centralized service staff spaces. We shrunk a little bit the overall footprint, and then looked at removing some of the lovely to have but maybe not necessary features. We had a raised floor, we had this really lovely natural ventilation system, and some of those things were removed from the project.
One of the other challenges Shepstone is navigating in her new role is the ongoing labor dispute with library workers. She says she can't say much, except that they are at the table with the union and optimistic about coming to a deal soon. At Sarcan depots across the province, you can now recycle flexible plastics, foam packaging, and non-deposit glass bottles, among other things. Sarcan is partnering with Sask Recycles, which is the new provincial program for household packaging and paper recycling. It is responsible for managing, processing, and recycling those materials. There will be no deposit refund on those items, but they're hoping you will drop them off for environmental reasons.
Flexible plastic packaging has been a traditionally very difficult product to manage in the past, or packaging type to manage in the past. We work with an end market partner who has an ability to convert this into plastic pellets, which form the feedstock for the creation of durable plastic goods.
Baker also says broken glass can be brought in, but Sarcan recommends people still clean the items beforehand. The range of items people can bring in vary from zipper lock plastic bags, saran wrap, pickle jars, foam takeout packaging, and more. A full list is available on Sarcan's website. A business owner outside of Wynyard is worried a proposed highway expansion will threaten her store's survival. Maria Olofsson owns Freba Pottery on Highway 16. Normally, customers can pull off the highway to reach her store, but now a passing lane might be installed directly in front. Olofsson has proposed moving to the passing lane to the east to avoid her property.
If it goes ahead, my business most likely will peter out to the point just access will be difficult, and I might have to go back to taking pottery to a market, and the honor system will be harder to operate because it's harder to get into, and eventually it just might fizzle out.
Olafson's honor system allows customers to enter her storefront, choose pottery, and e-transfer her the cost without interaction. She's launched a petition with the Ministry of Highways to try to alter the plans. The ministry says it will continue to work on the design to ensure it will not impact business access. It was a special day at the Saskatchewan legislature for bison enthusiasts. The Saskatchewan Bison Association, in partnership with the National Circle for Indigenous Agriculture and Food, donated a mature bison bull shoulder mount that will be prominently displayed in the building. Several people spoke at the event, including Premier Scott Moe. We'll be back after the break. There was an unusual event on Parliament Hill today. The Prime Minister called a meeting with all the opposition leaders, and everyone showed up. The topic, dealing with U.S. President-elect Donald Trump and his threatened tariffs. Kate McKenna has the details.
Today, in a rare move,
why'd you agree to take this meeting?
Why not?
Opposition leaders met with the Prime Minister,
And putting our interests first.
talking about how to deal with the President-elect of the United States and his threat of a blanket 25% import tax on all Canadian goods entering the U.S.
We discussed the possibility of unfair and unjustified American tariffs, and I made the point that these kinds of actions, were they ever to go ahead, would be damaging to the United States just as they would be to Canada.
I want to see an all-hands-on-deck approach to make sure that we are fighting to protect Canadian interests.
Last week, Trump vowed to slap Canada and Mexico with tariffs unless they stopped the flow of migrants and fentanyl across the borders.
We're trying to fight the Trump administration, which doesn't exist yet. We've got till January 20th to try to use every contact we have with contacts in the United States, people going into that administration. Don't put 25% tariffs on Canada.
It was a closed-door meeting, but a senior official says opposition leaders were asked to promote Canada to American contacts. They were also told not to negotiate against Canada in public by saying the border isn't secure.
We were reminded, please, do not say things that aren't true. Don't play into Trump's narrative.
For at least one opposition leader, that message didn't take.
Right now, we're going into this problem in a state of weakness. The Prime Minister has broken our immigration system, broken our bank, broken our borders. We need to fix what he broke to put Canada first.
The Public Safety Minister says new border measures are coming, but won't say exactly what or when.
We will have announcements to make in the coming weeks, recognizing that January 20th is obviously an important moment.
Dominic LeBlanc also brushed off comments from Trump at Mar-a-Lago last Friday, when Trump reportedly said Canada could become the 51st American state.
But the fact that there's a warm, cordial relationship between the two leaders and the president is able to joke like that, for us was a positive thing.
The Prime Minister's office is trying hard to get all political leaders on board. Last week there was a meeting with the premiers, trying to convince them that a united front is the best approach. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
Sunday was World AIDS Day, a time to raise awareness and help end the stigma. The good news is, globally, HIV rates are dropping, but in Canada, cases are going up, and Saskatchewan leads the way. Jennifer Yoon looks at why.
A hopeful snapshot showing substantial progress in fighting HIV/AIDS. In the Central African Republic, with teams going into small communities and making antiviral treatments more widely available. Between 2010 and 2021, globally, new HIV infections decreased by almost 22%, and HIV-related deaths decreased by almost 40%.
The biggest takeaway is that progress is possible, but it will require sustained focus.
But in Canada, HIV cases are going up. According to the latest numbers from the Public Health Agency of Canada, between 2022 and 2023, there was a 35% increase in new diagnoses. And while the disease is no longer a death sentence, Canadians are still dying of it. 1,597 deaths were attributed to HIV between 2013 and 2022.
The problem is that we forgot
This doctor, who's been fighting AIDS since the 1980s, fears the same old stigma remains.
The 80s was a new disease, killing people, no treatment. Now we have treatment, it's a chronic disease, but it's more difficult to do education and prevention.
Prevention through self-testing or taking a daily pill, also known as PrEP, which virtually eliminates the risk of contracting HIV. In Saskatchewan, which leads the country in new HIV diagnoses, community workers say education and outreach are key.
We stress the importance of practicing safe sex, using protection, and when you use substances, never share your needles.
Also important, experts say, focusing on those who already have a hard time accessing care, like those experiencing homelessness or poverty.
If you don't have a place to live, why would you worry about being tested for HIV?
She says culturally sensitive solutions by and for those who are disproportionately affected, like Indigenous people, are key to stopping the spread of HIV. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
The weather update is brought to you by Capital GMC Buick Cadillac. Year-end clearance is on now.
And our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins me now. Downright balmy outside right now.
Yeah, we got some melting happening today across much of the province as things really substantially warmed up. We take a look at daytime highs on Monday, or at least temperatures around 5 o'clock on Monday. Compare those to 5 o'clock Tuesday, just 24 hours later, and look how much things have warmed up. Number on the right there is 5 o'clock Tuesday, and you can see 15 degrees warmer in many locations, especially through south and central Saskatchewan. But that's not lasting long. You don't even need to have the cold front drawn on here to show how temperatures are beginning to drop across the province, or at least you can see it on the color contour there, that blue beginning to overtake the green, and that's just going to keep dropping southward as we head through the night. It's also, of course, bringing some cloud cover. That cold front attached to a low pressure system, which was bringing through some pretty heavy snow. We had 14 centimeters reported in La Ronge last night, and now that is continuing to drop cloud cover through the province. I think we're in store for a mostly cloudy night for much of the province tonight, and maybe some stray flurries, particularly into southwestern Saskatchewan. High pressure is going to reinforce that cold weather, so things going to stay quite chilly for us tomorrow. As soon as that high moves out, which it will bring some clearing conditions to, I think, eastern sections of the province tomorrow, but as we head into a Wednesday evening and early into Thursday, we're going to be seeing some snow move through west central and southwestern sections. That could also bring a little bit of mixing at times. Another little bit of snow moving through early Thursday and through the north, and then another system bringing possibly some mixed moisture again to portions of central Saskatchewan into the northern grain belt, and some more snow as we head up north before that moves through on Friday, leaving some cloud cover though in its wake. Could be another 5 to 10 centimeters, especially for far northern locations as we get toward the end of the work week for that system that's moving through southwestern Saskatchewan. Yesterday, this was showing maybe 2 to 4 centimeters. Now we're kind of consistently getting in the range of possibly 5 centimeters or a little bit more than that in places like Swift Current and Kindersley and Leader. Been a gusty one through much of the province today. I think for Wednesday, gusts will remain for at least the morning for southeastern Saskatchewan, including Regina, before things start to die down. A few breezes possible, especially for central sections as we get into early Thursday morning. But yes, temperatures will not really go anywhere for Wednesday, and that wind is going to make it feel closer to minus 30 for a lot of locations before we finally see that those temperatures start to warm up toward the weekend. For Saskatoon, yeah, looking at a temperature around minus 15, and then a rapid warm up to not only back to normal, but possibly even above that. So you feel that, Sam? That is weather whiplash.
Love that for us. Thanks, Ethan.
You're welcome.
This is the definition of extra, and it's billed as Europe's most expensive Christmas tree and on display in Munich. It stands more than 3 meters tall and is made of 2024 pure gold coins and valued at more than 5 million euros, about $7.4 million Canadian. The tree topper, a giant 20-ounce version of that coin. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. MPs yesterday grilled the CEO of Rogers Communications, this country's largest telecom. They grilled him over contracts customers say are unfair and misleading. The company is accused of jacking up prices of internet, TV, and home phone bills, even when people are locked into a contract. NDP MP Brian Massey says he was not impressed by what he heard.
It really seemed that he was distant from some of the points that I think are really there for consumers and Canadians, where the price of their product is, going up, and people don't have that, I guess, skill set to, or money at times to even pay for it. And so, real quickly, what I think he doesn't understand is that he's even treating his own customers as sometimes winners and sometimes losers, because if you can fight for a lower price, you're going to get it. But if you can't, then you won't get it. So it's just not fair for Canadians.
Massey says he's putting forward a motion calling on the industry minister to prevent telecom companies from putting language in contracts allowing these hidden fees. And Ethan is back with one last look at your weather, but I don't even want to know about tomorrow because it's going to get cold again.
It's just going to be cold, already cold in some places. And yeah, a good bundling is in store for a lot of us tonight because you're going to need a lot of layers because it is going to be chilly, feeling like minus 30 for a lot of these locations in south and central. Still breezy overnight. That's what's going to kick up that wind chill through, especially eastern sections, and maybe even feeling closer to minus 40 if you're in parts of far northern Saskatchewan as those temperatures drop closer to minus 30 and we get to some clearing skies out there. Now, the one thing that will help bump up temperatures a bit is this incoming system that'll be moving in through the kind of later afternoon, early evening hours into western sections of the north. But even at that, temperatures still going to be hanging back quite significantly. That'll be moving into southwestern and west central Saskatchewan, probably by the early afternoon hours. But as you can see, these temperatures really not going anywhere for much of us in the southern half of the province. Hey, want to send a big shout out to the grade 5 class at St. Michael's School in Moose Jaw and to teacher Sarah Very, who you see there on the right, and Allison Gritzfeld, who took this great photo. We were out there today getting some questions answered by these students. One of them asking about volcanoes, Sam, which unfortunately I do not know about. But
and
they were
Ethan,
great.
You're in the bottom left in case anyone is
Oh, yeah, this is me here. Yeah, here, I'll step out of the way. There you go.
Thanks so much for that, Ethan. That is it for us tonight. For more news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/Sask or subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.